Good afternoon. My name is Richard Wilson, and on behalf of the firm SOM and Phil Inquist, who extends a wholehearted hello to you today. Unfortunately, he could not make it live and clients call. We are delighted to be invited to talk a bit about the work that we've been doing around the Great Lakes, but more than just show a show today, really to engage you and others in a discussion about a very important region in the Americas. We're very fortunate in Chicago that we've actually come from a fantastic year in 2009 where we had an entire community, the region, really talking about an architect, about a visionary plan that happened 100 years ago that laid out a fantastic long-range vision, not only for the city of Chicago and the adjacent suburban communities, but really for the growth across a multitude of states, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan, envisioning a new way to develop communities around rail, new infrastructure systems, green belts, and an economic vision. So many of the organizations, many of the firms in the region really undertook kind of a year-long process of different kinds of projects to really think about the next 100 years. So we had nothing else to do further than to just look out of our window, and in our office we have a fantastic view of Lake Michigan, and to think the problem or the opportunity really in front of us is the idea of our region and this freshwater resource that is the Great Lakes. So we started to ask ourselves, what kind of vision is in place? Where can we go to understand the vision for the Great Lakes region and all of the communities that surround it? And to our surprise, we found there is no true comprehensive vision to guide development, to guide thinking about the environment for the Great Lakes. There's a lot of fantastic work that's been done by the scientific community that address issues of water conservation, a lot of fear that people will take our water out of our area and ship it away, a lot of work around water quality, but no real vision to talk about connecting the communities around the lakes. And so we started to think about calling for and recognizing the need for a 100-year vision for this great resource, and found that many people kind of feel that thinking across an area this large and a long vision is perhaps a very difficult kind of task to undertake. You know, we really kind of focus and guide our success on things like the success of the market. We have elected officials that need results quickly. We have short memories, so the idea of going out there and really advocating for a long-range, multidisciplinary, interconnected plan for a region might seem daunting. Interesting quote here in a great talk that people see how vast the Great Lakes are and mistake that vastness for invincibility. So we are calling for the establishment of a 100-year vision for the Great Lakes. And I'd like to walk you through this now. So what we started with is collecting some fun facts about the Great Lakes to kind of educate about this system. And so, excuse me, the Great Lakes are home to 30% of the Canadian population and 10% of residents in America. It's home to more than 80% of North America's supply of fresh water. And amazingly, less than 1% of the water in the Great Lakes is renewable. Just a quick overview here of what it is. These are the drainage basins of the North American continent. And this is the Great Lakes Basin. It's actually a bowl. It's the result of glaciers that melted and created a bowl. And again, the water in the lakes is less than 1% renewable. The lakes are actually an interconnected system, so starting from Lake Superior, they actually step down and find their way to the St. Lawrence River and to the Atlantic Ocean. And it's interesting, if you do an overlay of the lakes to understand the scale, it would actually stretch from London all the way down to the Mediterranean and back up to the Baltic Sea. And it's kind of interesting to see in terms of scale relationship that it's a sizable portion in comparison to the European Union. And this is a very interesting one. If you actually took the perimeter of waterfront frontage around the lakes and you stretched that out, you could actually stretch from Chicago all the way around the world to Perth, Australia. So interestingly, when you look at this, we have less than 5%, 4% of actual urbanized areas around the Great Lakes. It's kind of amazing that such a small amount of kind of land use within such a large basin has the potential to do so much harm, but it also has the potential to do good. So very quickly, issues that we've been talking about are understanding power generation, and it's amazing, almost a very heavy reliance on fossil fuel and coal-burning facilities, much of which the technology was developed on average around 1964. Our Canadian counterparts are doing a good job, a little better job than we are in terms of renewable sources of energy. You think about the Great Lakes and you have beautiful vision of beautiful, clean blue water, but in reality, we have several very challenged environmentally degraded areas and areas of concern as recognized by our two governments. And an issue that's been very hard to get a lot of public interest in, but all of a sudden over the last couple of years, it's now in the center of kind of national debate. And in fact, the United States and Canada has just announced a joint effort to address and study invasive species. And agricultural runoff. This is a picture of Lake Erie. It's just after a rainstorm, and you see kind of the yellow area that's leaking in from the lakes. It's actually areas of agricultural runoff with water that's enriched with fertilizing nutrients, which ultimately promotes plant growth and clogs waterways. Urban areas certainly contribute to issues. We have several of our older municipal water systems that are combined runoff and sanitary sewer overflows that actually flush right into the lakes. And issues of capacity and congestion, and ultimately this translates into opportunity here, that we have great transportation flows and good flows, especially between the United States and Canada. We have key border crossings. We know that since 9/11, things have been more challenged, kind of the flow of goods and flow of people. But how could we look at ways to increase our relationship and capacity? And of course, we don't have to preach to this group to know about the horrors and the high cost of sprawling development. So with an understanding of those visions, and again, why are we doing this? It's really to engage people in a conversation. It's using our ability as architects to find images, to hopefully try to find and develop an understandable story so that we can go out and engage not only the design profession, but engage the scientific community, the educational community, and in fact, the men, women, and children of the communities in the cities around the lakes. So we have a few key areas that we're looking at. We're talking a lot in our profession about great cities, green cities and the Great Lakes, imagining cities that could actually double in their population and capacity, cities that rely on green energy sources, that have new ways of thinking about infrastructure, that are permeable, that return water to the water table. And always thinking about models that we talk about for global survival, where the inputs that come into the city in terms of food, energy, and goods, that we find ways to recycle and reduce the ultimate inputs from our cities. Of all of the ideas that we've been talking about, this one perhaps has gotten some of the greatest attention and focus. It's the idea that could the Great Lakes Basin be imagined and cast as something that's larger than a national park, indeed a binational park, something like a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And it's interesting, we've been talking with representatives from the National Park Service, and they're actually recognizing and calling for a new way in our new century to reimagine the next generation of national parks, and recognizing they may well be working parks so that you would have cities within natural areas as part of this vision. Great Minds and Great Lakes, we have an incredible concentration of educational universities and interest around the lakes, so how can we use this initiative to actually link people one to another and generate great conversations? Blue is the new green. This really picks up and supports the work that has been underway by our scientific community to assure clean, drinkable water, fishable waters. It's kind of interesting, blue is the new green. Some people are starting to talk about, kind of the cash relation back to a blue economy and recognizing that we're actually paying more for a liter of bottled water than we may be paying for a liter of gasoline. Tapping renewable energy resources, a lot of discussion about utilizing wind energy, solar, geothermal, taking advantage of heat exchange from deep cool water cooling systems. And then another idea that's been largely kind of provocative, think about, is all of the discussion about high-speed rail. We're talking about in America about linking districts. In our area in Chicago, it's all about trying to do a link from Chicago to St. Louis. But we were thinking, what if we opened this a bit and started to have a binational discussion about linking two nations? What if we could link Chicago to Toronto? And what would the implications be for places like Detroit that lie in the center of this? Leaders in climate change, policy, and technology, and everyone's kind of asking what this is, what are the opportunities, what are these economies? And it's interesting, we're working in places around the world, and what we see when we introduce, when new technology is introduced, such as concentrated solar fields, we have very interesting urban centers. We used to have a rich heritage of actual water-based heritage tourism, and what could we do in this area to rediscover that heritage. Then finally, many people, many water, why on earth would anyone in Duluth, Minnesota really see themselves as having a connected future to anyone in Buffalo, New York? And it's interesting to think that, that the water drop that is in Duluth is the same water drop that makes its way to and across the Great Lakes. So we do have a linked history. We believe we have a connected future. What is the challenge? Maybe I should have put this before, but this is pretty amazing. We're talking about two nations, over 150 Indian and First Nations reserves. We have 2 Canadian provinces, 8 states, and over 15,000 municipalities and government organizations. So it's really been amazing, a bunch of architects out here talking about water, talking about environmental issues, talking about things beyond urban development, and we were not prepared for the groundswell of support. We've been to Washington to talk to leaders at all levels of government. We've been invited to Canada. It's been fantastic. I've got to meet real Canadians, and I got to see maps for the first time that include, the United States. And I had always grown up seeing the United States and then the Sea of Canada. So we actually made maps where we had the United States and Canada on one page and started to see that we are really one America. So through imagining a new vision for the Great Lakes, could we imagine a new way to map America? What would that look like? How could we link the economies and the futures of some of our frail cities, of our environmental areas, so that we could redefine a future for this great resource? So I guess the last comment that I would offer is building upon Burnham, reflecting upon our experience. I think it is an observation that the architect, the landscape architect, the design profession can be a position of power, and it can be used in the right way. So we invite you to please join us. We've committed to a 3-year effort now to advance this idea. In fact, it looks that next spring we're going to do a joint exhibit along the Great Lakes between Chicago, including Toronto, perhaps Buffalo, and it's growing, to do an interactive program, display, installation about the Great Lakes. So thank you very much for your interest. Good day.